Hello. Okay. It was it was explained in the basis of explanation that man is political in its nature, and that his nature is that of is a grouping nature, and he is not like the rest of the last. As you know, there was a the, the there was a big difference between his particulars up until it is not it is it's possible that not to find two people who agree in in kind kind of virtues, like you don't just like you don't see their shapes as which look the same, just like just like you wouldn't see the shapes that look the same. And it's it is because they are changing the temperature, the temper, and as a result, the the material is changing, and they would change also, and they would switch or change also in the kinds which in the particulars which are moved towards the the form, because every form because because to every natural form there is some of the some special case particulars who are pulled after it, without the case and the cases that are, and there is no cases which are not pulled to the after the material. And as a result, in this changing, the big person, the big particular, the changing of the person, which is big, is found in one of the kind of the animal. But the changing between each personhood to every type, to every kind, which to every species we could close between each species get closer, except the man, which you will find two persons of him. From him, those and there are change in species in every virtue, until you would find visceralness or cruelty, might be also translated as cruelty of a man, which would get to slaying young son of anger, and the other will be graceful on killing the things that in the air that you know, one sec. Every louse or worm that one and the other would be sorry for every louse or worm of one, and his heart will be softened by it. And so in most cases, and because that it's his nature, is given that between each particulars or person, what I translate before as persons, would be a type, would be changing, would be that of a changing, and his nature would necessarily go towards the grouping as a necessary need. That is to say, in no way that in no way that his grouping will be completed, but in a leader, in necessarily. And the rest of the action, which would take the rest of the which would feed the rest of the action, which would separate the, which would guess the action and would feel them, and would feel the lacking, and would remove from the many, and he would legislate his action and virtues, and his virtue would be done on everyone, on one law always, and up until that the natural changing would be gone as of a result of accepting of his direction, and the grouping would be organized. And for this, I would say that the spoken teachings, which is not natural, it has a place in or introduction or in the natural things or the natural notion it's more general. Every type of occurrence in the natural occurrence might be better. And it was of wisdom of God in putting the species to what he wanted to be his reality. For his nature, that would be to his particulars, have a power of would have power of leadership, and from them it would be one who in himself would be a prophet in leadership, in this leadership, and this prophet is the one who placed the nomos. Nimus, said how they said nomos. ומהם, and from them, those which would have power to force to what to do, what he command, what this prophet wanted, commanded from his teaching, from the teaching of the prophet, if from its entirety or from partiality of it. And it would be that he would take the few, and he put the few, if for that it would be more easy on him, or if for that it sprang to mind, or to the to think that those are the things which came to him in prophecy and wouldn't be continued after him. Like I think it's shortened for like jealousy. Because there is type of humans which would be better in his complete eyes, one which in his complete eyes, and he will guarantee to him, and it would be guaranteed to him, and he wonder and want that they would be in liking, that humans would be liking to what in him would be the perfection that he is, this perfection, more correct. And even with that he would know that there is no perfection in him, like he would see many who would be praised in a song or poem of them, and they would say, one sec, which he would which they done, and so it would be done. It would be done in a few of groupings, linking of the of wise people, and give in in partial in giving or partiality of many wisdoms. Those would fall on to a jealous man who is not rigorous. Forgot the word. These new things for him, and he would glorify that he is renewed, that it's renewed in him, the notion here. So happen in this perfection of prophecy as well, that we will find the people which praise themselves in prophecy and said what is not being brought in prophecy in those days at all. Such in Sitkiyahu, son of Knanah, and you would find many people who glorified themselves in prophecy and said things that God said without a doubt, wanting to say they were brought into prophecy, but to others, like Hananiah ben Azor, son of Azor, and said that they are prophets, and there is and there is end of audience of someone who would speak to, would authorize that. And this knowledge, this and the knowledge of this in its entirety, and the knowledge about it is well understood or well explained. The terms Sorry, let's keep an eye. And I would explain to you that it is until it wouldn't be supplied on you, this business or this thing, and it would be in you a difference which you know it, which you will know in it, between the leading of laws or regulation, manners. It could also be understood as manners, in the sense that he is talking, which are given, and between the leading of the holy teaching, and between the leading of who would take for my lectures from the lectures of the prophets, and would be glorified in them, and would glorify himself in them. And he would say that he said them. Maybe the manners, what legislation, laws, and so on could be understood, which they revealed. Those who put them, that they are manners of the manners of consolation of the mind, from the mind, and he wouldn't need for them evidence. If the confession of an enemy, admission, confession, admission, something along that, he wouldn't need someone to confess. He wouldn't need a witness. And with that, I would want to inform you the leading which would be said in them, that they are of prophecy, because they have because there is of them true prophecy, want to say divine. And there is of them that they are of manners. That type of manners, mean distinction, yeah. And from them, the which those who say them would say, that he set them from his heart and took them from the one other to him. The one that not him. The one from his fellow man. Because when you find, when the teaching of the intellect would be fine, her purpose, its purpose, and the purpose of all which give it, and that the rest of its action, maybe it is on one hand a political order of the state order. Today I'm not sure of that. I think it's more political order in the context, and its business would be to remove the burden and the unjustified taking evil doing. It could be understood as robbery or theft, but I mean it's more evil doing from her. And for that, and because the opinions, the healthy opinions, for the opinions to be healthy or it's not something I want to do, or liability. Sort of misgiving. Yeah. But the intention in its whole, it's the order of the human business or the human thing in the few. Order of human things. In the few, if the few are coming to are welcoming that it would be, and it would guarantee and it would get to them a few of the success as the opinion of the same head. Know that this teaching, Torah, is type of manner, is presumed type of manner. This type of teaching this teaching, which is type of manner, place, as we remembered, from the people from the cult, some cult, from the third cult. Want to say the third in the speculative force alone. In philosophers. And when you find the teaching that all the leading are learned from what came before in fixing the things of the body and in fixing the belief. So is the case. So as such, so as before. And you put the intention to give two opinions. Of God, yeah, in God first, and in the angels. And he tried to wisen up humans and to understand them and to make them understand and to fool them. No, to awaken them. It could also understood to fool them in certain sense. Up until they would know the reality as if on true property. You would know that this leadership from this God and this teaching, that which is divine, and it would stay that you would know if it is said that it is on the fool, which is said to him in prophecy, or he is the man who glorify in lectures, in those lectures, and he stole them from the other. And his type of, he's like the prophet or God could be, and his type of or examining is examination of perfection of the man, which is to research and to know his action and to wise in his virtues. And the biggest that in your excellency is give rest for the enjoy bodily enjoyment and the wretchedness, because that is the start of the step or rank of people of wisdom, just as the prophets and just as the sense, uh, the senses, bodily senses, which is wretchedness to us, just as remembered Aristotle. And all of that is the something that you want to be stopped, or you get tired of it. It's get tired of the of sex from them, uh, and for that passing, he passed and published the God, the name in him, in every one who glorify in prophecy, for it is known, for it will be known, or would be revealed, the truth to those who verify, and they wouldn't misdirect, nor would they be misdirected. Just see that Tzidkiyahu, son of Masiyahu, and Ichav, son of Kuliah, how they glorified in prophecy, and they pulled after them people, humans, people, and they said things of prophecy which their other to them said, and they kept on limiting the enjoyment of sex, and they kept on not limiting. Maybe advocacy to limiting would make more sense of this passage. Up until they slaughtered sorry, in the woman of the friend, which were pulled to after them, up until they published that they were that God published them just like He published the rest, and burned them, king of Babel, just like explained Yirmiyahu. Just like explained or expanded Yirmiyahu, and said, and took from them a curse to all Judah exodus, which was in Babel, to say, to God put you as Tzidkiyahu Zik which Kalam, king of Babel, and so on. And they would have sex. I'm not sure it sounds to English. It's not have sex. It's there. Have sex while having a wife on your own, or taking wife of other, the woman of the friend, and they would say a thing and understand this intention. This is one of the chapters that it starts to get into the prophecy. Prophecy, as Leo Strauss noted, by Ibn Sina, the prophet is inherently political, according to him, which would explain why, when you talk about the prophets, you start a chapter with, because man is political in his nature, and the political nature of it. Also, it is noting on the political nature, on the diversity of opinions that people hold, meaning which also connect to the ability of men to speculate, something that, at least insofar in this paradigm, animals don't have. They have passions of sort, not really passions, instincts, something more akin to instincts and ability to abstract the notion, what they see. This led to the fact that people not only would diverse in idea, they would be diverse. They would diverse in any idea. They would be diverse in ideas about what is virtue or what is good. So far that someone would get and would slay his son from anger, meaning that man is also not only, which lead to the diversification can come in form of being inclined to the animal side, or irrational, or acting from irrational perspective. It's not even rational or irrational, it would be, yeah, they will have level of compassion which directs them. A compassion that will be connected to the place, to the, what's it, the temperature or temper. It's, for the, Chrysos will explain a bit, I think, expand about it in what being spoken about. And to the most, this composition in this species, in this kind of species, because he is the last of the compounds. For he have in him four flames, and they are against four bases, and the power on the growing, which is shared with that of the animal, and the soul is the ionic, which is shared with the animal, and the intellect power, which is different from all the animals, up until he is the last compound. And from that, it would be necessary that there would be a great difference between the people. And if change the temper, want to say that the tempers are continued after the middle, or after the heated, as if someone have strong heat in it, which would always be angry. And that which the blood take over him, and he would always be happy. And so is the rest of the tempers. And so the rest of the virtue, all are given after the temper, and so on. The basic notion here is notion in biology or medicine, that there is the four tempers that are fitting each of the systems, the four basic elements, the four basic types in nature, and so on. And I'm not sure if that's what Maimonides had in his mind completely, but it does seem to suffice as notion of what he's speaking about. This is on the change of temper. This is being said on the change of temper, which is which in change of temper would change the materia. the notion here is human action, so I would guess the material with, so I guess the material would fit to that. The form of humans in act as political animal is in action. It could also mean temper in the sense of I am in a bad mood sort of thing. So we still have this language in that as well. This change in basicality, in basic inclination between people, bring forth the need for political organization, and thus in leader which would know how to fill the few and to take to fill the few and take from the many, and to instill the right opinions. So in that, to take from the few and to fill the few and take from the many, it's a sense of justice. And it could be, it would be weird to take it more allegorically, I guess, but I mean, one of the reasons people angry about things, it's because they believe people take from them. Thus, taking from someone lead to him to angry. I can lead to him to be angry, or the appeasement that he have of easy life would lead him to be in rest. That this lawgiver would act as if he tried to instill the perfect state, the state which this Maimonides described as, and he would give it, and he would legislate actions and virtues which all will do on the law, on one law always. Meaning the point is to achieve unity. This brings us to the notion of what does the prophet as a political leader means, as in the Torah or Bible is not a natural revelation. It's something that people said. It's ascribed events that people written in the past. So it have from the poetic, thus it's synthetic. Maimonides continues then that it have things of the natural, not in a scientific sense, but in Aristotelian sense, meaning that what is. The Bible have claims on what is. That is to say, and it is God who place us this species to what he wanted in reality, that there in his nature, and part of it is that people would have a leadership, and he would have some to pass his teaching, which is the first definition, lead us to the first definition of prophet. That who put laws, that's not laws necessarily here, but manners, or I think it can be taken in both ways. So the word is nimus, it's come from nomos, and as far as I can know, manners or way how to act is the basic forms of legislation that can happen. Legislation here doesn't mean a state legislation per se, but it could be what we say, for example, in culture, um, that there is a culture, what we talk about in culture, or things like that. So lawgiver is in the Platonic sense, is quite a wide concept. It's not necessarily a person, but could be a concept. And you have ranks of, in a way, he also portrays rank. So the prophet is someone which would have power of leadership, and he would inform those who claim to be prophet would be those that are profited, which God himself profited to be leaders, which are the prophets. And from them, those who would have, and from them there is a more limited set of those who can force what he commands, by the prophets, and those who continue his commands or maintain the law. Those who maintain the law are the kings. Thus, they are already taking what the prophet says. The prophet would have in his eyes the entire society, and he would try to instill justice, taking from those that have a lot and maintaining those that have, and giving to those that have few, meaning the golden rule. Most and few doesn't necessarily mean equal, can be mean according to the nature. Some people might be more inclined toward a certain end, not necessarily to that, to form of equality. He would do so. And the king is a type of person that takes from the wisdom of the prophet. He takes some or few or the whole, meaning the difference between, I forgot the figures, but the king that instilled the that removed the Bamot, and the kings before and that didn't. But it's revealed something on the prophet. The prophet, it's not someone that forces his opinion. He might force them by some other means. So if he's a good prophet, but in the end, he is directing, in a sense. He is the spirit of the laws, and not just the prophet. And it is not meaning that the laws of God are not necessarily to be done completely, nor the prophets necessarily to be understood completely, or to be followed completely. If so, what is the place of such prophets? Thus, he doesn't provide in this chapter, but he provides some sense that we can have into it in other ways. Wisdom would be part of what force, yes. And the one who executes the laws, unlike the prophet or the law, hence the lawgiver, and even the lawgiver or prophet would know that they don't have perfection. Who does have perfection in the mind of Maimonides? Moses. But the prophet is in understanding that he doesn't have perfection. Thus we get to the fact that the prophet is necessarily a public figure in a sense. Everybody can claim to know the truth. That open the possibilities that someone can know the truth on the political life. How should one conduct himself among others? Or claim, even the more basic sense, how one should conduct himself. So we have two types of prophets. One who claim to prophecy but have no prophecy, and one who claim to prophecy and have means and have true prophecy. The prophets, which are not knowing which are copying the true prophets, would glorify themselves. How do we differ? The prophets that are true prophets wouldn't glorify themselves necessarily. They would tell the truth, and it would seem as glorify who are false prophets would glorify themselves more. That is, they would also be in conduct of because the prophet is necessarily a public figure. He need to be he would be judged by the public, meaning that if he said falsehood, he could be called out for it by the wise, which are part of the human beings. So even if he would be in misconduct, you would have false prophets that have false teaching, eventually it would be called out in some ways or some means to those that at least to those that in the know, and would act upon it. They would also be different in the type of teaching they would have. Their teaching wouldn't be on manners simply. There would be a true teaching on human nature. Furthermore, if you have a false prophet that claim to teach that they steal from prophets, hence mimicking, hence mimicking, and the prophet that mimic would mimic a true prophet, at least partially. For it's not that he would say falsehood completely, but he would say types of falsehood. And furthermore, since the false prophet tried to do it for his own self, to glorify his own self, it would be noted in time to glory in his public action. Here the example is someone who still has a wife. But surely it can be generalized to a broader perspective that someone is taking public funds for in more modern context. In modern context, if we have theocracy or any other thing that belong to what Maimonides would call bodily passions, someone who want a lot of food or a lot of wealth or a lot of want enjoyment or so. It's not limited to that. To take from an interesting note that could be taken from Leo Strauss' commentary on Maimonides is that the guide is essentially letters in letter form, and each part of the guide have endings and starting. The guide is aimed to someone that have partial knowledge as well, and the ending of the chapter, and understand this intention could be understood by by Leo Strauss to say the student originally wasn't aware of that, meaning Maimonides renewing here, he tells something new. In a sense, there is a sense of irony. The very teaching he have here is a teaching of prophecy. It's a type of prophecy. And all of what being stated is as such on the prophet. Does it mean that Maimonides, it would be a different question, but is Maimonides a true prophet? Or someone that knows that's so wise that he can outsmart, as the distinction between the prophet who mimic and the prophet who know is that the prophet that mimic is not in ignorance. He is aware to some capacity, some would say to the greatest capacity, what is the teaching. And he also knows the heart of people in the same sense. He knows what people want to hear. He knows what people want in the basic needs. And so he knows how to conform to them. So does Maimonides give a real way to differentiate? Also, we can have a notion on what Grenade from more religious eye, what Maimonides is aiming toward, meaning quality and gracious is the role of compassion in how we conduct with each other. And certainly the cruelty of one that killed his younger son from mere anger would seem to every straight eye as something that is evil. And the other is absurd in this dichotomy in the start. The one who even care on on the smallest animals in him, that since he is so merciful. So the prophet seems to be the balancing of it. Another question that can be raised: if the prophecy, the true prophecy, is of revealing of the natural of nature in an Aristotelian sense, where is the limit? Or why is it necessary to a prophet to be Jewish? The Guide for the Perplexed is not a philosophy book necessarily. While it has an elusive character, it must, it at the very least, have the possibility to be a theological book. It claimed to be a theological book. From this chapter, it seems to take a theological turn on some face. But the elitism of it, the notion of what makes prophecy true, is by judgment of philosophy. So, on surface, there is a couple of possibilities that can be posited and have been posited. Is the prophecy is in fitting with nature, or is the prophecy is completing our understanding of nature, meaning it's comport to nature, to the natural revelation, or the teaching of the prophets are philosophers. That is sort of a rough draft, but I mean, it is an option that we can give on the lawgiver. This is include, if one would take a prior conception of lawgiver, a lawgiver can be nature itself as a concept, or the principles from which we learn, which are also metaphysical to some degree. Also, he will here include that what is the aims of the Torah, or the correct teaching, which is a formula that's repeating in the book. Fixing of the body and fixing of the soul, or fixing of the opinions, which later translate to fixing of the soul. where the soul is being taken to the underlying of the physics, of the ability to speculate or abstract particulars. Okay. In any case, to summarize, this chapter talks about the nature of prophecy, both in what the ground of prophecy and how we distinguish between, and claim to describe how we distinguish between prophets. Thus, and if we take the first chapter starting seriously, it's meant to explain what does it mean, the political nature of men, which is the basis of prophecy. In distinguishing, it gives us the categories. The categories of prophets as they are arise. How prophets arise? One second. What distinguish between two prophets, and what between apparent prophet and a real prophet? And it gives a sense to the virtues that we should look for, to some degree. It doesn't tell us what does it mean in a strict. It doesn't necessarily tell us the distinguish between philosopher and the prophet, although it can be understood quite directly that the prophet had knowledge from God, meaning that he had revelation. But as noted, having a revelation, and the revelation being true by being judged against nature, teaching of nature of man, is a bit blurring the line in the same way that it is distinguishing. It also gives the God a sense of which the false prophet would be corrected. If one would to adopt a more philosophical reading on Maimonides, it would lead him to say, in more radical sense, that prophets are a collection of philosophers that go against each other in the public, and have public teaching. But also, it would good to note that the philosopher, although a public figure by being political, he is not a public figure in his teaching necessarily. Sure, he publishes his teaching in public, and thus he is public in some sense, but his teachings are not necessarily revealed to the public in various ways. So he also not necessarily a public figure, just as much. And a question to remain with that, it's who is the race that the false prophet stealing from? If it's from the true prophets, what does it? If it's referring to the true prophets, which is in the direct account in the text, in what sense do they steal from? Do they steal from with intention? As it could be that they steal not from intention, as the teaching is necessarily be understood by the public. So it's something that can arise in some sense, maybe in partial sense, but in some sense. Also, why does he bring Aristo in the end? Would be another question to ask. Aristotle, someone who is famous in his teaching, would he be a true prophet or false prophet in this account? Does Maimonides, as a prophet here, use Aristotle to, or misuse Aristotle in order to exemplify his point, as in people would be more inclined toward a big name, where Maimonides is not a big name, not in his time and not necessarily. Certainly not as big as Aristotle. This is this is even become bigger question as he raised the tone when you talk about Aristotle, as he pass on the weakness of the physical of the physicality of man and how one shouldn't be jailed in it, which he always do that, but he do that with a raise of tone. And furthermore, this teaching is a new teaching. It's not something that necessarily would be known to the average person at the very least. Well, perhaps it can be found to the average if the average believer was smart, if taking that Maimonides saying true things with the intention of saying true things, but perhaps he not. Furthermore, if the prophet is a political figure in the weaker sense, meaning should I vote to this person or this person, or particular that, which is not seen on surface, but could be understood as such, his role essentially becomes directing, in the weakest sense. But that can be rejected as a prophet seems to be advisor of sort. But if thank you for listening.